regardless of the outcome. Boost the positive energy without one. Sorry about the jab, I'm on a holy field. I'm bearing fruit, but demons try to eat them like Yoshi meals. I pissed them off the Batman like Falcone deals. Jungle full of predators, I know how Mowgli feels. So I got the fire, refuse to live in fear. I can spot suppliers, eating fresh drugs. Call me private label, I be leaving bread.
Oh, welcome to episode 148 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, the only pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. How are you doing, honey, with all that feedback that we're not supposed to have right now?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Good. Yeah, we're still working on the technical stuff up here, but we're getting better. We're getting better. Hey, if you're here in a live chat, by all means, hit that thumbs up. Tell everybody out there in the YouTube land to go ahead and start suppressing us, because every single podcast we do is flagged. Every one of them.
Okay.
And we were behaving ourselves.
Plain t-shirt on. Not going to say anything, so we'll see what happens.
Well, good luck on the not saying anything, because we got to say something. But yeah, that's the world we live in, y'all, where no matter what, and it was about as milquetoast as you can possibly get that last time out. But hey, it is what it is. As always, this episode brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! Heaven's Harvest, y'all. 10% off with promo code PERMA, P-E-R-M-A. Remember, check them out over there, y'all. Things are getting, well, when I say they're getting real, they've been real. They're getting realer. They're going to get crazier and crazier as things go on. Look, y'all, the best I can do is try to have some kind of, as crazy as it gets, I hope I don't lose my sense of humor in all this. But the truth of it is, if you don't have, look, there are going to be certain things that you need that maybe you can't provide. Maybe you don't have a freeze dryer. We've taught everybody over and over again how you can put back beans, rice, all your dry goods, how to can. No shortage on that kind of stuff. But if you want to put back any protein, or there's a number of other things over there you can get, by all means, check them out. And remember, use promo code PERMA to get 10% off. Now, moving on, if you would like to listen to us on another platform, it's called the Fountain app. And you can pay out. It's kind of neat the way they got it over there. You can listen to all your podcasts over there. You can triple up the speed if you'd like. And you can also tip somebody in the form of a derivation of a Bitcoin they call SATs. So if you'd like to drop some SATs on some PIMPs, go ahead and do it over there in the Fountain app and check out all your podcasts over there. Regarding leaving comments over there, I don't know that we have access to it right now. So it's either going to have to be in this forum or have to be via email. Well, we're going to jump right into the farm news. And thanks, everybody, coming in. Anybody new, like I said, please hit the thumbs up. Tells them to go ahead and start suppressing us right off. So farm news. Well, day after day, you and I have been making compost extract and sticking it out in the pasture.
Yep.
Particularly up in the woods. So you've been my big helper on that. Okay. Okay, my little helper, Santa's little helper. I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah, you're making it go 10 times faster with you out there helping me do that. So why don't you tell everybody what that is designed, why we're doing that, why basically what we're doing, we got a 30-gallon bubbler. I'm making up 30-gallon batches, sticking it in buckets when it's all ready to rock and roll, get it out to the field, and then we got a stock tank, which is 100 gallons, and we pour about 15 gallons, which is way, way overkill. Why don't you tell everybody why we're doing that, Michelle?
That is to get life into the soil. That's the short answer. So we want life in the soil because they make nutrients available to the plants.
Now, what life are we talking about exactly? Because that's kind of a lot of folks aren't going to know what you mean when you say life.
Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, which include nematodes, amoeba, things like that.
So instead of going out there and dropping straight compost on your fields, you can do an extract, which is basically we're extracting those organisms from the compost itself through the process. And when we do that, it's a way more efficient way of putting it out there. Yeah, you can do it like Joel Salatin, and they got compost spreaders and stuff like that you can put out there. But this is another way of doing it. And in fact, it will actually go deep into the soil if it's done properly. So we've been all over that lately with this nice weather, or nicer weather than we're supposed to have right now out there in the t-shirt. So we might as well make the most of it. So all these places that we have around here that are highly bacterial, really, we got things dying in the woods in the form of trees and stuff like that. This is what we're trying to mitigate. And this is what we're doing. We're doing videos of it, but we cover a little bit more of it on Patreon. And all we're basically doing is extracting that life, putting it in the places where it needs. Right now, and I'm talking to nearly everybody out there, I guarantee if we were to take your soil, look at it under a microscope, it's in most cases, what do you think you're going to find?
It's highly bacterial. And a lot of it doesn't have, a lot of your land isn't going to have any life at all because people put chemicals on their field, fungicides, herbicides, whatever kind of side, it all kills all of your life in the soil. So your soil, if it's lucky, has bacteria.
Yeah, if you're lucky, because there are times we get soil where there's not even bacterial. There's not even bacteria in there. High compaction, which is also going to tell me it's highly. So why is that a problem? It's going to be a big problem. Well, why don't you explain why that's a problem? Let's say you're grazing cattle out there or sheep or whatever the case may be. What's the problem with it being entirely bacterial?
Well, are you talking about bacterial or like soil? Highly compacted? Another problem that you just brought up is high compaction. So if you have high compaction, you're not going to have, it's going to be anaerobic, which is going to have all of the organisms that you don't want. And it's not going to have any life in it either. Yeah.
So that's exactly what we're doing. Thanks, Fed Up out there, because it seems like every time we mention that, I better not say it because we'll see what happens this time. It doesn't matter. I mean, it seems like they are determined. So we may, just a little side note, y'all, we may have to wind up pulling this completely over to strictly the podcast platform if they keep, because this is exactly why we launched this thing as a podcast, was to say the things that we know we will almost certainly get flagged for. But like I said, every single video, no matter how milquetoast, keeps getting flagged. But back to the previous thing. Yeah, what we're trying to do is get that life down in the soil, and that's where everybody seems to be missing the boat. So what we can do is take that stuff, get it in an aqueous form, get it down there into the soil, and have it go to work for us. And we're getting into that time of year where a lot of your breakdown through the winter, especially if you get snow, that snowpack does magnificent things underneath it.
Right.
It's basically all that life. We used to think rainforest would be the place where things break down the best and easiest. That's not the case. It's actually in places where you have a little bit of snowpack, and when it melts, the conditions are absolutely positively perfect. So if you can go ahead and those bare spots that you have in your place right now, start putting down some hay. Even if you don't have animals on it, just put down some hay and watch what happens over the winter if you get a little bit of snow, because it really, really helps. All right, other farm news. And Michelle, feel free to kick in there if you want to. I'm just kicking out stuff that I'm aware of. So I killed all the trees on the porch that I planted a while ago. And the reason why is I didn't put the lid on top of them.
Well, it was just the hazelnuts. It wasn't the figs.
Yeah. Well, the figs I got inside. Well, the figs stuck it through that first frost. But the hazelnuts, I froze the roots. You do that, look, you got problems. So anyway, I got all the ones I saved, got them in the house. I'm essentially using the south-facing part of our house as something of a greenhouse right now. We could use other places. It just makes sense. It's in close proximity, not easy to forget with all the things we have going on. Remember, in permaculture, you put your things in the zones where they really matter. So with your herb garden, your vegetable garden, certain things, you want them that you cannot miss every single day. You want them in close proximity. You don't want to forget about certain things. If it needs maintenance, you got a problem, you need some, this or that, you're able to do that. Well, the cool thing about taking this stuff in the house is you can use that and put it inside your zone 0 being the house. And I'll call 0.5, let's say your front porch. And then zone 1, imagine concentric circles around your house. It's a little more complicated than that, but it's really not that complicated. That's really the long and short of it. So in addition to that, we've been doing a lot of weed eating lately.
Yep.
So with the weed eating, the reason we're doing that, okay, we got this silvergrass that nothing will eat. Now, if we had an animal like a water buffalo that will eat this stuff, yeah, we'd be all right. But we don't have water buffaloes here. And this stuff grows in compacted soil that's highly bacterial. We haven't found it yet in a forest setting, which is typically more fungal. So the idea is if you go out there, test this soil, which we have, you'll find out that it's highly bacterial, highly compacted, taking us right back to what we need to do in terms of, so right now we don't have an animal. Yeah, we have animals that will eat it when it's young, but when it's mature, they will not touch it. They will not eat it. So that means everything the animals don't do, you got to do. So that brings it to you means us. So we're out there knocking this stuff down. And when we put it down, we're covering it up. We're running the animals through, and then we're covering it up with a little bit of hay. And then, and then we could also seed. I'm doing some of that too. And then on top of that, obviously the animals do their thing. So all the while we're making it more and more and more fungal, which is going to make this stuff not want to come back in the first place. So we've had other places around here, particularly where we have the food forest, that was highly bacterial. Now it's highly fungal, and there is no silvergrass. So if you have some of these things that you think are problems, y'all, believe it or not, just by changing up the composition of your soil in terms of making it, okay, so let's say it's a field where you're going to be running your animals. You want it basically a 50-50 mix, and you want no compaction if possible. Yeah, and you can do it, believe it or not, just with good management. But we can speed things up, and we are all the way around. So planted some sweet potatoes today, and yeah, did that in a weird kind of way. Well, I got a video coming out on that tomorrow. Basically, here's what I did in a nutshell. I'll give you a heads up. So all the trees I killed in those little pots out there, I got all that bomb compost that we make, and I basically put it in the tub. Michelle had some sweet potatoes out in the kitchen in a bag, and they were starting to
they were from last year and nobody ate them, so you just planted them, right?
Not the sweet potato. I took the
you just took the growth, the slips off.
Yeah, the slips off of
Okay.
them. Just kind of did something of an experiment, and then took that and stuck it into a pot just to see what would happen. And lo and behold, it's coming up. So I repurposed everything. You'll see it in tomorrow's video. And I know that I'm not the first one to do something like this. Yeah, bonehead move, but hey, it is what it is. Or as one ghetto philosopher once said, and I quote, "It do what it do." Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Snoop. Anyway, y'all got my announcements coming up, and you want to check these out. School of Permaculture, anybody that's going over there right now for a lifetime membership, which is typically $1,500, they dropped it down to $550 if you use promo code PIMP. Permaculture is my passion, but use promo code PIMP. They're going to knock $50 off, and they're going to give it to what Fed Up says in the comments, and it begins with a V. So $50 if you get that lifetime membership is going to go over to them, which is fantastic. Also coming up, I see him also in the chat here, Keeper of the Old Ways. It's going to be March 31st through April 1st, and that's down in Dothan, Alabama. And Michelle, that was last time we were down there, it was really unexpected, because what were you expecting? Okay.
I probably shouldn't say what I was expecting.
Yeah, she had never been to Alabama.
No, I had been to Alabama, but it was a very nice town. I was not expecting, it was very nice.
Yeah, the venue, everything about it, y'all, it was really great. David the Good will be there. I mean, look, y'all, I'm telling you, it is a really awesome, awesome venue. You want to go ahead and get your tickets now, because the people putting these things on right now, it is a great help to them. If you think you're going to go, you might want to go ahead and get your ticket now. You probably save a little bit of money. Make your plans now, because honestly, that is a fantastic venue, and the food was fantastic as well. So that's coming up March 31st through April 1st. I know this is way out, y'all.
No, she's saying April 12th and the 13th this time.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, April 12th and the 13th. Okay, I got that all messed up. Apparently, I was at the wrong website. Mountain Readiness, that's also going to be one coming up, and that's going to be May 3rd through the 5th, if I didn't screw that one up. So, yeah, that one's going to be, what was really cool at that last Mountain Readiness is I couldn't believe how many special operators were out there teaching some legit classes. So it's really cool. It's a combination between bushcraft skills along with homesteading. It's a potpourri of really a lot of good stuff. And it's so awesome to see so many festivals starting to kind of merge the two, because once upon a time you would have your prepper sort of gatherings. Man, I hate prepper. I hate anything that ends in ER. Little side note, if they make it end in ER, it is always a pejorative by the powers that shouldn't be. Prepper, birther, You get it. Denier. It doesn't matter. Just add ER to it, and you just made it a straight up pejorative. So anyway, the preparedness communities would have something very distinct. Homesteading communities, something very distinct. And I think as things become a little more and more stupid, the two are starting to converge all the more. And for the longest time, I was hoping to see that. And it does seem as if that is actually happening. So couldn't be more pleased about that. All right, so we're going to get into the next segment. I don't have a segment from Pastor Lon. I guess he's pretty doggone busy right now. So we're going to go straight into the good news section, which used to be bad news, good news. Now it's all just good news. All right, here's one. Y'all, I'm sure the mainstream prostitutes, actually NPR covered this, and they had a very different take on what actually happened. Well, the new president in El Salvador, this dude ain't playing. I don't know a whole lot about him, but I do know that he had enough foresight. Basically, they got their country hooked up to Bitcoin. Okay, no matter where you come down on that, it stands for something. It's better than the US dollar. But here's what I really love about the dude. So he gets into office, calls his cabinet in there and says, all right, boys and gals, all the corruption that you people are accustomed to doing in positions like this, it stops. And I'm going to examine each and every last one of you. And I guess he's giving them like a point of amnesty. Like, hey, you got time to, straighten up and fly right, or you're going to get loose or get lost, one or the other. So he basically gets in the office and tells them there will be no corruption, or I'm going to toss your behinds in the slammer. That's what I'm talking about. Sounds like this guy's a real leader, which, hopefully he doesn't end up like Allende and some of the others that dared to, buck the tide. But anyway, brings joy to my heart to see somebody out there that's, as far as a world leader, actually doing some of this stuff, which is also another thing. And when we get into the main topic of this program, which is another reason why I'm thinking about learning Spanish, real deal Spanish, because because the way things are going right now, we may need a fallback position that is not in this hemisphere. I hate to say it, y'all, but it's getting worse and worse, and generally nobody seems to care. So I don't know. Maybe El Salvador might be a good plan B, maybe plan C, D, whoever knows. We were actually I tried to talk her into retiring to Panama. She wouldn't have. It was either Panama or Alaska.
I would take Panama any day of the week over Alaska.
Yeah, well, that's where I wanted to go, and she didn't.
You couldn't. I don't think you could deal with Alaska.
I could deal with it more. I've been to Alaska. I loved it.
Yeah,
there.
But you didn't
I was there
live there.
70 below.
You didn't live there.
Yeah, but I can dig it. I loved it up there. I thought it was really cool. Anyway, here's some other good news. Talking about world leaders, Conor McGregor's talking about running. If you don't know who he is, former UFC. I think he held 2 different belts of the UFC. Conor McGregor. Like him, hate him. It sounds like he might actually be a decent dude in terms of politics. I don't know. I never really was a big fan of his boorish behavior in the octagon. I mean, but he was rather gracious in defeat. I mean, at least he seemed that way. Anyway, he's talking about with all the crazy stuff that's going on in Ireland right now, where you got people literally saying, hey, we need to just all consent to give over all your private data concerning everything. Well, Connor ain't having it, and the rest of Ireland, it seems, isn't having it right now. So, you know what? I bet that's one place where they didn't shut down liquor stores during COVID.
Oh, I'm sure they didn't. They probably knew better than that.
Well, they'd have burned that whole country down, man. What did they say? Irish would have took over the world if it hadn't been for liquor or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, here's the other good news section. Man, oh, shoot. At least I thought I had that good news section. Well, anyway, it was a list. I don't have it. So it was the benefits of cold showers. Okay. So we've talked about a lot of biohacking so far on this show and the ones we've done. The only thing I haven't done with any legit consistency is the cold showers. Now, for those that are out there wondering, why on earth are you talking about that in something like a pimp cast? Because it's earth care, people care, and the abundance given to the previous 2. Those are the ethics of permaculture. That people care is the thing that seems to be forgotten in all of this. And so that's why I've talked so much about biohacking. So there was a list of benefits in this article that I used to have until a few moments ago. For some reason, the computer decided to not let me know that I have it. But of all the things we're doing, that is the one thing I haven't done consistently. The couple of times I, excuse me, the couple of times I have done it, it's been in the shower. And look, man, I don't know how to keep this clean, but my junk shrunk up the size of a cocktail weenie. And I was like, man, I know this may be really, really awesome, but I ain't digging the feeling. But I will note that when I did it, the 2 times that I did it, I had the best sleep of my life. You've done it.
Yeah, I think it's easier to do it. Kendra, my niece, she lives here with us. She wanted to do it in a tub. So we had a tub set. Well, it wasn't a tub, but we had it set up outside and we filled it up so that you could just jump in and get it over with, and you just sat in the water up to your neck. And that, I think, is better than the shower. The shower just doesn't work for me.
Well, one of the cool things about that article is that people seem to think you got to be chipping ice out of there. Well, you don't. You get the benefits depending on whom you ask. If the water is 60 degrees or below, you start getting benefits, but ideally 50 degrees and below. And that's from the people that have really done the science on this. So it's basically flushing all this blood to your brain. That's why they're saying if you ever do a cold plunge, some people will tell you in the evening, some people say it in the morning. Most people overwhelmingly do it in the morning. And the benefits are unbelievable. And I was actually going to start doing it this morning. There's a couple more hurdles I want to jump, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to try to do it consistently. It's just kind of a pain in the butt for me to do it in the morning because I'm out and about. I'm doing things. I mean, I'm like, okay, now I got to go in the bathroom, get in the shower, and do all this. I'm going to make it a priority so I can come back to you and tell you how it's doing. But I mean, good night, man. Everybody I know that has tried this, I'm reluctant to do something when it becomes a fad. I am historically all my life, when everybody else is doing it, I have a lesser tendency to want to do it. But I'm seeing people that I respect that are doing this and they swear by it. They say it sucks every single time. But man, I'll keep it real. When I see black people doing it, like Steve Harvey and Stephen A. Smith, and I mean, they're dying saying they're doing this stuff, but they're like, dude, it is my drug of choice. That's universally what's being said. So I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to let you know how it turns out, y'all. So far, the 2 times I've done it, it sucked both times, but I slept like a baby.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, permaculture retrofit. Most of the work to transition to a sensibly designed society will be retrofitting what already exists. It is an imperfect solution, but we must utilize the energy and resources already spent to move forwards. Most people live in poorly designed homes and neighborhoods that waste tremendous amounts of energy for heating and cooling. Most of the southern United States is unlivable without air conditioning in the summer. Energy will be a critical retrofit. Improved insulation and attachments for heating and cooling support. Adding a glass house to the sun side and a shade house to the shade side can help a lot. Water will also be critical, especially in the dry lands. Harvesting rainwater and utilizing wastewater. All the water you need for a garden comes out of a house. Put the kitchen sink drain into a 5-gallon bucket and see how many times you empty it in a day. Now add the bathroom sinks, showers, and laundry. You will quickly realize how much water is wasted. But there's only so much you can retrofit on poor design. If your yard is completely in the shade or your house is oriented 90 degrees the wrong way, this is why community is the only way forward. If your neighbor has a sunny yard, you can put the garden there and store water and make compost in the shade. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider. And if you're in need of permaculture t-shirts or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericsider.com.
That's my dog, y'all. Go check him out. You need any design work over there, you will be floored. Everybody that's ever used him has been astonished at how much he is able to do remotely because he's that experienced. World traveler, has done this stuff all over the planet. And proud to call him my friend, y'all. I mean, he is wicked smart, good friend of the family, does so many wonderful things, and is just the absolute definition of selflessness. So, yeah, go check out Eric Sider. But man, how true is that? I mean, that was one thing that drove me crazy. If you ever, in certain places, like the way most houses are designed in places like Oklahoma and Texas, where everything is in the slab, it's all in the slab. So it's nearly impossible to collect your gray water and separate it from your black water. That's one of the things that just absolutely and there's no basements in a lot of those places. So that's one thing where design really has to be done on the front end with a lot of this stuff. Unless you have a crawl space, which with a lot of new construction there, almost all of it's going to be in the slab. So something to think about if you're going to be putting in a house, or if you have an upstairs that maybe you can somehow redirect some of that stuff, it wouldn't hurt to do it. But yeah, check out my man Eric. Got the ball in his shirts out there. It's what I wear about 80% of the time. All right, y'all, before we get into the main topic, remember EMP shield. Do I even need to go on about what the dangers are on this planet? So EMP shield, you get $50 off with promo code PERMA. So notwithstanding an EMP, your number one threat is always going to be lightning on your house. Take it from me, a journeyman electrician, IBW journeyman electrician, 25 years, speaking for myself right now, that there is nobody out there that gives you a better deal. EMP shield did not reach out to me. I reached out to them because their product is that doggone awesome. So $50 off with promo code PERMA. So we're going to jump right into the main topic right now. Thanks everybody in the chat. If you would hit the thumbs up once again, let them know to suppress us because they're going to demonetize it anyway. Got to love that. All right. So y'all, this is one I really, especially getting into what a lot of folks call the holiday season. People are just plain wore out. Inflation, as we said a moment ago, is going through the roof. Your cost of everything is going up. Things ain't getting no cheaper. And the things that suffer most is the people care element. If you really get down to brass tacks, for most of us, what suffers most in all this is people care. And like Eric Sider always says, it starts with you. So you got to put some kind of level of priority on it. Now, I've kind of broke Michelle's chops a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, when I was talking about when it comes to people care, she is the one person that is least likely to look after her. And I'm on her just about every single day about the things you ought to do. So, Michelle, what are some of those people care tactics? Because I want to extend this out there and make everybody realize that it's not just, hooking up somebody that might be a little low on funds. It's not just helping out a person that might be in a bad way, or hooking somebody up with some vegetables or groceries or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of the people care that I'm doing for me today is probably 95 mental. What about you?
Yeah, I would say it's the same thing. Like the things that I do in the morning before I even start the day: read my Bible, pray, grounding. I try to do grounding when I'm doing something else. So I'll go outside and I'll have a project and I'll just ground while I'm doing it. Meditation. Usually I can't do anything. Obviously you can't do anything else when you're doing meditation. So you just have to take the 15 minutes and just do that.
You can be grounding at the same time.
No, yeah, but you can't be working on a project. I mean, because like when I'm grounding, a lot of times I'll be packaging up comfrey or something. You can do that at the same time as you can grounding.
Now, keep in mind, y'all, you don't have to necessarily be outside to do any grounding. There are products out there. There are devices you can buy. And I even showed you a DIY way to ground on Patreon, which is basically copper fabric. It is so doggone simple, even a caveman can do it. That's what I come up with, where it's basically sitting in your chair, putting your bare feet on it. I'm always going to select to try to put my feet on the bare soil outside, or just something about it that just feels better. You're discharging electrons every single time you do it. In fact, regarding that level of people care, just so you know, as a little side note, I'm not trying to go too far sideways, but if you were to take your blood and look at it under a dark field microscope, and you'll notice your red blood cells are kind of clumped up. When you ground, your red blood cells go apart from one another, meaning that they're able to carry more oxygen and do a number of other things. Inflammation. I mean, the benefits are unbelievable, but it starts with that people care. And you can, like we always do in permaculture, we stack functions. So one of the ways I go about the morning, and I'm still trying to dial it in. Now it's just me and her. So I'm trying to dial it in to make it make sense for me. So my routine is a little bit different. I get up in the morning and first I pray before I even get out of the bed, unless I somehow forget, which I've been known to do. But I do that right off the bat. And then when I get out there, I try to do something of a, I try to do my Bible study first. And then also it's a battle as to which one gets priority. Because I know that in order to do the meditation, I got to have, for the one I'm doing right now, I mean, I should be doing an hour, but I'm doing 15 minutes. And for me, I notice the difference when I don't do it. When I say it's mental, I mean it. It's mental. Balancing, wearing a lot of hats, balancing a lot of things, just like everybody else out there. So, like I said before, I've never in the history of my life had an excuse for why I didn't brush my teeth. So why do we always make excuses as for why we didn't ground or why we didn't meditate or why we didn't do any deep breathing? Because that's something that makes all the difference in the world. It really does. And you know what? Almost every single bit of what I told you is absolutely positively free, even going back to the showers. You know, what does all this have anything to do with permaculture? As I said a moment ago, it has everything to do with it, because if you're not able to do the work, or if you're making your life a living hell for the people around you, then what is it all for? Or if you're on this, and like with the meditation, what I found out through Dr. Dispenza, one of the guys we were getting advice from, is that every single person wakes up, and I'm talking nearly everybody, you wake up today with 99% of the thoughts that you had the previous day. And then we wonder why we don't heal. We wonder why mentally we don't get any better. We wonder why we go in, day out, toil day after day, week after week, month after month, and then we see no change. Well, it's because we're thinking the same doggone thoughts. And that, for me, was a game changer when I realized that all I have to do is put in a little bit of work whenever I had this negative thought. And I've talked about it in some of the previous podcasts where I'm like, okay, well, based on how I was raised, I'm not going to go through it again. There's this battle within me of dealing with negativity. And then now I'm conscious there's not any of this stuff that goes into my mind that escapes my awareness. And when I notice it, I can thwart it right off. That's going back to people care. It's making me an easier person to live with. Would you agree?
Yes.
Doggone right she would. No. But then also, that's one of the areas where I'm strong, which is also one of the areas where she's not so strong. And I got to stay on her. So it's a matter of keeping each other in check, of saying, hey, you're putting in the work. And then there's times where I'll ask you and you'll get annoyed with me, like, hey, I got to do this, this, and this, but I'm staying on top of her because here's a little example. Yesterday, I did not do my meditation. Yesterday was a bad mental day for me. I mean it. That's just one day of not doing it. And it's only 15 doggone minutes. Another thing you can do, and we've talked about it before, I'm going to keep talking about these life hacks because they make all the difference in the world for your mental well-being. Get morning light. Get that first light. We talked about it in the last podcast. Now, we're farmers, so we're out there already. But you can stack some of this stuff. For example, if you're able, especially if you're an older person, you're nearing retirement, how about stacking this? Go out there, if it's warm enough, if you're able, go out there when the sun's shining with your bare feet and do some deep breathing. That's 3 of them right there knocked out all at the same time. Or go out there or throw the 15-minute meditation in there, for crying out loud, in your bare feet outside getting that morning sun. You can do it. It's not that hard. It's just all of us are slaves to the grind in one way or the other. And the thing that's neglected in all of this is people care. Because honestly, it's like being on that plane where they say the oxygen gets low, the mask drops down. What do? You put yours on first, right? Mm-hmm. And then what? Then you help everybody else. But I'm not giving the best version of myself, especially as things get dumber and dumber and dumber, is all the more reason why I have to work harder and harder and harder in trying to maintain my level of people care. So really a better title for this really ought to be personal people care. Because we can talk, I mean, everybody knows generally what the person around you needs. But you know what they can use better than anything else? Is the best version of you. Because then all of a sudden people are going to say, hey man, I noticed you changed. What's different about you? Then it opens up the door for you to evangelize all to them, all the easy, simple, wonderful things that are happening. Michelle, do you see a change in you since before doing this and right now?
When I do it consistently, like there's a day like yesterday that I was having a hard time. So I have to do it consistently. I can't just do it once, twice a week. It's got to be something that I do every day. And then I do see changes.
Yeah. And that's where I got to stay on her, because it's not just, I mean, and this is also, you can say if it's a selfish motive, because honestly, she starts tripping, I start tripping. And if I'm not careful, I mean, that's the point, is that with all the different hats that she and I both wear and everybody else out there, if you're not taking, I mean, for crying out loud, it really takes no time at all. There's like, I mean, a deep breathing. I told you that Breathe with Sandy that has a YouTube channel. He has a 5-minute, you can just go on there, look at his video. He has a 5-minute energy. He says better than coffee. And I'm here to tell you, it is. You find yourself midday in the office, okay? Look, people are spending, look, you're not working at the job anyway. Or if you're going to go hide in the bathroom and play on your phone, do some of that deep breathing. Or, I mean, that's what a lot of guys do on the construction sites. I mean, go in there, you will be shocked at what you're able to do. You will be shocked. So this people care, and it also extends into other things. Now, we've talked about the breathing, the grounding, sleep. Okay. That has historically and has always been a problem for me. I'll go ahead and cover my end of it because it goes right back to that people care, quality sleep. Now, y'all, I'm going to hit you with another thing. Okay, so let's say you listen to music when you go to sleep. I could go into all the history, and maybe I'll get somebody on the program, a more consummate expert on the subject regarding frequencies. Okay, prior to World War II, I want to say 1938, somewhere thereabout, Goebbels basically got everybody in nearly all of Europe to change the tuning of their instruments from 444 hertz to 400 hertz or something like that. Anyway, it's a very dissonant thing. It's not good for you. It's not good for your body. Well, to this day, everything you hear on the radio is tuned at 400 hertz for the most part. There are other frequencies out there like 444. Some people say it's the frequency that King David used. They actually have people out there like Whole Tones. Look, I don't get anything for telling you this. WholeTones.com, they sell these devices where it'll actually play music that you can sleep to, you can meditate to, and it's all done in these different hertz, in these frequencies, okay? These healing frequencies. This stuff works. There was that Japanese doctor that proved it with the ice experiment. That's another thing I'll say for another day. But the point of it being, you can take some of this stuff, put in your earbuds, play that. Obviously, you want your phone in a Faraday bag if that's what you're using, or they make an actual device where you can play it on. Okay, so that's another thing, sleep. For me, I have always, historically, my whole life, I have always struggled with getting sleep because I wish I didn't, I'll be honest with y'all, I wish I didn't have to sleep because there's so many things I'm trying to get done. There are so many interests that I have, and I'm sure there's a lot of you out there as well. It is hard for me to shut my mind down and go to sleep. And historically, what I'll do is go, and then I'll finally hit a brick wall, let's say on Saturday, and then I'll just crash for a while. That's historically how I've done it. But sleep is one of those things that honestly gets neglected. You used to love sleep, and now you seem to struggle with it more and more.
Yeah, I mean, I've always preferred 8 hours a night, but obviously you don't get that all the time. But yeah, sleep is something that I have to have 8 hours sleep or else it's not going to be a good day. And it's more so that I just get irritated because I I just don't do well on little sleep.
Yeah, but that's where some of these other hacks can come in. Keeper of the old ways said, my mind doesn't shut off. And that's a fact. Mine, I don't let it shut off until I do a little bit of meditation. I could listen to some of that music. And believe it or not, there are some deep breathing techniques that you can also use that'll get you closer, get you into that alpha state, which will also, get you ultimately to sleep. Yeah, I have the same thing with my mind not shutting off. Some people also argue that it could be a vitamin deficiency as well. But for me, I wish I could go 24/7. My mind is always going. It's on some other project. It's on something. And I wish I didn't have to sleep. So I struggled nearly every night. But once I get to sleep, I'm pretty doggone good unless my diet's messed up, which means I'm going to get up and I'm going to have to pee in the middle of the night. So, yeah, I know that's probably more information than anybody wants, but yeah, getting adequate sleep is something that is one of my biggest hurdles right now. She's better at it than I am, but admittedly, it's one of my biggest failings, and I'm trying to get better at it. Although I'm like, this is one of the areas where she's stronger, but I'm weak. So, I mean, she'll literally just get up, go to bed, don't even say good night half the time. Get up, go to bed, and then I'm like, where'd she go? Well, she's in bed sleeping. I'm like, gee, we didn't even pray yet. So anyway, so some of those other people care things. Let's talk about some of the things that could help you in other ways. Obviously, we've talked about classes, things you can take. Good night. This last year, I was trying to take stock of it, of all the different classes we've paid for. And I'm talking to y'all, we spend a lot. Michelle, am I lying when I say we spend a lot of money on education?
Right.
I mean, we spend it would floor most people if you knew how much we spend to learn from the very best on this planet. And that means sometimes going to where those people are, whether it's going up to learn under Stefan Subkowiak up in Canada, whether it's doing Dr. Elaine Ingham's soil food web course. I mean, there is a lot of money that goes out this door because you know what? It is my craft. I am a farmer. I'm a permaculture designer. I'm all these things. And if I want to be the best at what it is I do, then I have got to learn from the best, whether it's learning from Greg Judy, Joel Salatin, you know the names. And I'm not saying these names to just spit it out there. Look, these are literally teachers of mine. But that's part of that people care is because I love to learn for the sake of learning. And I don't even care what it is half the time. There's a documentary I want to watch tonight, maybe, if I can actually force myself to not go to sleep in the middle of watching it. But I'm saying there are tons of different ways in which that people care can look for you. Like, Michelle, what are some of the...
Well, for me, it's working out. Like that's another thing that I struggled with. I'll tell you, the garage has been an absolute mess and it drives me nuts because I don't even have room to get out there and work out. And when I go too long without working out, I get very irritated. So that
is that it?
So that's one thing. Yeah, I have to have that workout a few times a week to
Well, I mean, you got more curves than a goat pass. I mean, I don't know what you're worried about. She's worried about working out, but she's in here. She'll cook some stuff to make everybody else fat. So, yeah, I'm sitting here looking like, what? Okay. But no, you're right. That's something I'm actually going to start putting into my regimen. She started packing it on me. But really, I mean, all these different things, speed reading, that was one of the courses I talked about before. I think I spent more time on Patreon talking about that. Yeah, I went through a speed reading course, paid for that. Spent a lot of money to get in that course. But I can zip through books now. I'm reading probably 5 times faster. And now I'm taking it from a trifocus reading method where I read basically in a nutshell. Okay. For the people out there, let's say I'm reading in thirds, basically groups of words instead of see the cat. Okay. I'm reading at a higher level than see the cat or see spot at a much higher level. But instead of reading out each individual word, you learn to read groups of words and you're reading at the speed of thought. So my mind is going way faster than trust me, you can think way faster than your mouth can talk. Most of us, well, anyway, do you know how much more efficient that makes you when your comprehension goes up and your ability to read is, quintupled? I mean, whatever the case may be. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm doing a bifocus, meaning half the line per glance. Then I'll get to a single line per glance, then half the page per glance. That's where the goal is. And you can train. And part of that is it's not self-hypnosis, but to a certain extent it is. It's basically training yourself to see this because your brain can do it. It's just in our school systems, they always taught us to read this certain way. So my point is I spent money in that level of people care because I got to go through a lot of stuff in the course of a day. Learning does not stop. Means you got to read. And if I can get through it 5 times faster, well, that's more things I can stuff in the day, because it's not like you get through these things and then you say, oh, wow, now I can take a break. For me, I don't do that. I just pack more stuff in. So, there's a speech class I took, thanks to Eric Sider. That ain't cheap either. Learning to be, I'm on the YouTube channel, for crying out loud, which means I probably ought to have good modalities of communicating. Okay, I did one thing. I'll give you a prime example. Okay, from that one class, I completed the course. And by the way, I got another course lined up, and that's Stefan Subkowiak's course. That's something else altogether. So I was doing a presentation at a preparedness festival, sorry. And I did the same thing 2 days in a row. First day I gave that speech or class, I did it the regular, same old way I'd normally do. And most people that see me speak, generally, I don't think I'm boring, but I know that I could be much better. And so I did one thing. This guy taught one thing different in the next class, and it made all the difference in the world. So if you're in the business of communicating with people, maybe you might want to learn how to communicate, whether it's going out there learning from Toastmasters, or any number of other things, which, I mean, these are little things, honestly, that you can learn through YouTube, but it's people care. And it starts with me. And it's honestly those little things that I'm able to look back over the year, and I was writing them down for this program, and I'm like, good night. Man, how much did I learn over this last year? Because we never really take stock of all these different things. It's why I have a literal calendar on the wall, and I write these things on the wall. I mean, on the calendar, not on the wall. But I'm taking stock of all the things I've learned in this year. That's why nobody can ever say to me, you haven't changed a bit. No, you're not going to be able to say that to me. And you can't say it to you, because I know that I'm not, I can demonstrate that just based on what I've learned, I'm not the same person I was a month ago. So that's part of the people care that means something to me. Look, y'all, either when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. That's why so many retirees, they get out of the workforce and then bam, kaput. They take a dirt nap because they're not doing anything. And I hope I never, ever, ever become content with just doing nothing. I mean, I don't know that that's even possible, notwithstanding some great calamity. So by all means, y'all, put in maybe some of the hacks you have out there. Those are some of the ones we use. Michelle, what else would you add to that? Because you have a great deal that you've done and that you do. You're in another course right now to get your certification as the
consultant program for the soil food web. Yep. There's, that's kind of gotten put on the back burner just for a little bit, but we'll be back on it. I mean, honestly, reading, when I was doing 75 hard, it was one of the things is 10 pages a day. And I stuck with it after the program was over, but I've kind of dropped off. And I need to pick it back up. The problem is I have too many books going at the same time. So I need to stop reading 5 books all at once, and I just need to do one and get it over with.
I've been criticizing you on that for how many years?
I know.
You would have by the nightstand a stack of books, and I'm like, well, what are they about? And then you can't even tell me what any of them are about.
Well, that's probably because I didn't finish. But when I was on that program, that's the most effective way to read like a lot of books per year, is just focus on one and just do at least 10 pages. I mean, 10 pages is the minimum. I think you could easily do more. But another thing is YouTube, I'm telling, there's so much information on YouTube, and it's not all. David Politis, who is the Missing 411, has a Bigfoot class. It's free. Like, you can go watch it. And so I've been doing that just for a little bit of a entertainment value, mostly.
Hold up. You started examining cryptids and I don't know about this?
Well, I mean, yeah, to a certain extent.
Okay. Well, y'all, I just learned something right there, but that's going right back to that. It's even your interests. Like, people say, well, what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? Honestly, I love to learn. When I have any little bit of downtime, y'all, I can promise you I'm learning something. That's what I do. I mean, that's where I find enjoyment. or every once in a while we might veg out and watch something stupid on Netflix. But for the most part, I mean, honestly, that's what I do. Right now, I'm going, okay, while she's going through the Bigfoot thing and what little time I have at night, I'm going through another thing about the Civil War I didn't know. And for me, that is fascinating stuff. But that's what I find is stimulating and entertaining. But it all goes right back to that people care. All goes back to every bit of that people care. So we could go on and on about these stuff around you. What I'm trying to focus on today, especially, is focusing on that people care that starts with you. So yeah, we'll get to some of your questions there in a minute, y'all. But we're going to go straight to Chef Keith Snow.
Chef Keith Snow, Harvest Eating, with your Pimpcast tip of the day: building food security, things that don't store well. Storing food is, of course, the right thing to do, especially in the economic and geopolitical climate that we all face at this point in time. However, people often store food that has very little shelf life. Some examples would be rolled oats and flour. Both of these dry goods really are not any good past about 3, sometimes 6 months, depending upon where you live. Now, eating stale oats or flour, it's not going to kill you, but it's not very good either. So what's the alternative? Well, in my mind, buying a good grinder is key. I am fortunate to own 2. An electric Como mill that's made in Austria, and also a grain maker hand crank mill made in Montana. And I store plenty of whole grains. I keep oat groats, which are whole oats, and many varieties of wheat berries. Then I grind them as I need them. They are packed into heavy Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers and then placed into food grade 5-gallon buckets that are kept indoors at room temperature. Stored this way, they can last decades. Sure, I keep a small amount of flour and a small amount of oats that we use up and replace. In a dry climate, you do get more shelf life, but back east, stuff goes to crap much quicker. Learn more about food storage over at Food Storage Feast and save $30 with the coupon code PERMA. Take care.
Yep. Check out Chef Keith Snow. I don't know why that's so hard for me to say. His coffee is balling, and we got a bunch of his spices down there that Michelle bought a little while back.
And I just used his Carolina rub on the pork that I just cooked, and it's excellent. So his spices are excellent also.
Yeah. So definitely go check him out, y'all, and use that promo code. So get yourself some good stuff over there. Also, this segment brought to you by the TexasBoys.com. That food forest in a box right now is off the chain. Did a video, like I said, I think it was for Patreon, where I'm talking about some of that food forest in a box stuff that I have growing inside the house. And it seems to be doing well so far. So pretty doggone pleased with it. So you're going to get a little bit of I think it's a 5% discount over there with promo code PERMA. They also have honey. They got meat. Man, you got to check them out. And plus, they're one of the most suppressed. Man, I thought we got suppressed on YouTube. We ain't got nothing on the Texas Boys. I mean, wow. I could go on and on and on. But, hey, they got good stuff, and they got great ideas. So go check out the Texas Boys. They also got a Ballin' podcast, so check them out. You'll be glad you did. All right, so straight into the Q&A. Right off the bat, man, we got a lot of stuff. Well, man, for some reason, my computer's a little bit acting up. Anyway, we got one here from Lori and Jean, and basically they're starting out. She's 55, he's 60, 2-time cancer and Lyme disease survivor at 55. Wow, that's something. And they're hoping to live off grid in Wooded Acres. So anyway, they're jumping into it, and they're jumping straight into it. But I do want to caution everybody that's getting into this lifestyle, be really, really, really cautious with doing too much too soon. That's the number one killer for people to get into this lifestyle. I know you think everything's happening tomorrow, and it might be, but it ain't going to be any easier out there if you got 10 different animals and you don't know how to care for any of them properly. So feel free to just jump in there and just start with the gateway drug, which I call gardening, and then maybe kick some animals into it later. But be cautious if you're getting into this space to go too far and wide. Now, Michelle, we did have some questions up here. I saw a few of them a little while ago. Good night. You're going to have to probably scroll from up here. So anyway, y'all, I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on. We're having some email problems. I don't know, man. It's just crazy. I mean, there's a lot of weird things going on with the email and people that are saying that they're reaching out to me, but it's not getting through. And part of the reason probably has to do with the powers that shouldn't be don't want you to get through. So maybe through this chat might be something. I think you're going to have to go actually the other way. Yeah. So if you got any questions, leave it in the chat down below. So as far as some of that people care and stuff out there, I thought I saw some suggestions in there. And I'm going to ask everybody in the chat, if you would, to try to be as civil as you possibly can to the Jeremy Donnelly. He says, no civilization has made it past 2,500 years. The old ways return. Yeah. Okay. So basically, in a nutshell, it's like this. I'm not able to see it from this distance. Being able to grow your own food is priceless. Yeah. So we're doing in 200 plus years what it took the Romans 2 millennia to do. And I'm talking, if you go all the way back to the Roman kings, the Roman Republic, then the Roman Empire. Yeah. We're doing in just a couple of hundred years what it took them a couple of millennia to do when you add it all up. And it seems like we're just in a all fired up pace to get it done. So one way to mitigate all that is knowing these skills. But remember, start with that people care. Get yourself in a good mind. And don't be making decisions, y'all, on the basis of your emotions. If you're on a homestead, the number one, besides doing too much too quick, is doing anything on the basis of your emotions. So if you're one of those people that's mixed up in that sort of thing, you probably ought not to be in the planning sessions of any of the things you intend to do in your property. Because if you're doing it on the basis of emotion or ego or any of those things, it is going to ruin you.
Okay, there's a question. How can I kickstart my compost pile now in winter without any green? Just have chicken straw, bedding, and poop.
Yeah, if the chickens that pooped on there, that could actually qualify as your nitrogen layer. You can go to a brewery, get some of that spent grain. That's what a lot of people do out there. Food scraps. Yeah, food scraps is another good one. If you're able to get a hold of that, you can definitely get all the nitrogen you need in there. That is a really easy one to get, especially from a lot of places. Let's say you're not going to be feeding it to your pigs or whatever the case may be. You'd be shocked at how many food scraps you could get to kick off a pile. And remember, this time of year, when you're going to put together a pile, now this is going to vary. Now, depending on what method, I mean, some people are going to say 50-50 carbon, nitrogen. The method I'm using right now, and the one that works well through the colder months, is basically 20% high nitrogen, 30% nitrogen, and then 50% carbon. That's usually, and I need it that way. I'd kick it up a little bit more on the carbon layer if it had been, or on the high nitrogen layer, if it were warmer outside. But you need something of a high nitrogen content. And what I'm using is high nitrogen in that particular case. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's you could use poop, something like that that's really going to be kickstarting that stuff out there. Comfrey is also a really good charger for your compost as well. So what else you got?
I'm scrolling through to see if there are any more questions.
Well, so we can't have dead air. Y'all, I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. It's been a joy to have all of you here tonight. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. Thank you for all your wonderful support. We do appreciate it. Till next time, y'all, stay alert.
Stay alive.
They don't want an individual, just a carbon copy. You spitting that manicotti, yeah, I'm talking saucy. All they want to build is a prison world full of pet Tamagotchis. They kamikaze, got me out of body like I'm Goku SS3. They want to push me to the center like a cell. They want to spin up at the center of the next is me. They want me to bow down, but I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. I will never bow down, 'cause I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. They want me to bow down, but I'm a warrior.